Hi, good evening. Good evening, everybody here and everybody on Facebook Live. Welcome to Spread the Word group. My name is Ashley, and I'm an alcoholic. We ask that you please put away your cell phones and help us to open this meeting by bowing your head and observing a moment of silence followed by the Serenity Prayer. God,
grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen.
This is the definition of Alcoholics Anonymous. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics achieve sobriety. In the Spread the Word group, we respect and share the spiritual principles behind the 12 steps together. Please repeat after me. 1, honesty.
Honesty.
2, hope.
Hope.
3, faith.
Faith.
4, courage.
Courage.
5, integrity.
Integrity.
6, willingness.
Willingness.
7, humility.
Humility.
8, brotherly love.
Brotherly love.
9, self-discipline.
Self-discipline.
10, perseverance.
Perseverance.
11, spirituality.
Spirituality.
And 12, service.
Service.
Is there anyone here for their very first AA meeting? Anyone new to this meeting or anyone just coming back? Please introduce yourself so that we can get to know you. Anyone here? And on Facebook, oh, hi.
Alyssa, just coming back, alcoholic.
Hi, Alyssa.
Welcome back.
Welcome. So glad to have you here tonight. Anyone on Facebook Live? Maybe, okay. So, I have asked Christine to read more about alcoholism.
Hello. Hi, my name is Christine and I'm an alcoholic.
Christine.
This is more about alcoholics. Most of us have been unwilling to admit we were real alcoholics. No person likes to think he is bodily and mentally different from his fellows. Therefore, it is not surprising that our drinking careers have been characterized by countless vain attempts to prove we could drink like other people. The idea that somehow, someday, he will control and enjoy his drinking is the great obsession of every abnormal drinker. The persistence of this illusion is astonishing. Many pursue it into the gates of insanity or death. We learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were real alcoholics. This is the first step in recovery. The delusion that we are like other people, or presently maybe, has to be smashed. We alcoholics are men and women who have lost the ability to control our drinking. We know that no real alcoholic ever recovers control. All of us felt at times that we were regaining control, but such intervals, usually brief, were inevitably followed by still less control, which led in time to pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. We are convinced to a man that alcoholics of our type are in the grip of a progressive illness. Over any considerable period, we get worse, never better. We are like men who have lost their legs, they never grow new ones. Neither does there appear to be any kind of treatment which will make alcoholics of our kind like other men. We have tried every imaginable remedy. In some instances, there has been brief recovery, followed always by a still worse relapse. Physicians who are familiar with alcoholism agree there is no such thing as making a normal drinker out of an alcoholic. Science may one day accomplish this, but it hasn't done so yet.
Thank you. Oh, and welcome our Zoom family now that you're here with us. Welcome. I have asked Fred to read how it works.
Hi everybody, my name is Fred. I'm an alcoholic drug addict.
Fred.
How it works. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program. Usually it's men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. There are such unfortunates. They are not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. There are those, too, who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. Our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we are like now. If you have decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to take, and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you are ready to take certain steps. At some of these we balked. We thought that we can find an easier, softer way, but we could not. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result was nil until we let go absolutely. Remember that we're dealing with alcohol, cunning, baffling, powerful. Without help, it is too much for us. But there is one who has all power, and that one is God. We can find him now. Half measures availed us nothing. We stood at the turning point. We asked his protection and care were complete abandon. Here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery. 1, we admitted that we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to a belief that a power greater than ourselves can restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. That's number 4. Number 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Number 6 is that we were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Number 7, asked God humbly and asked him to remove our shortcomings. Number 8, we made a list of all persons that we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Number 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Number 10, we continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Number 7, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for the knowledge for his will and the power to carry that out. Number 12 is having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all of our affairs. Many of us exclaimed, "What an order, I can't go through with it." Please do not be discouraged. No one amongst us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We are not saints. Excuse me. The point is that we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. The principles we have set down are guides to progress. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. Our description of the alcoholic, the chapter of the agnostic, and our personal adventures before and after make clear 3 pertinent ideas. A, that we were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives. B, that probably no human power could relieve our alcoholism. And C,
Good and would if he were sought.
thank you.
Thank you so much. I just want to give a quick shout out to 2 people in my hometown on Zoom right now, Mom and Jordan. Hi. I love you guys. Thank you for the support. Okay, now back to business. Okay, so now I have a secretary's report from Tommy.
Dark night.
Wow.
My name is Tommy, I'm an alcoholic. Excuse me. This is the Spread the Word group. We meet every Thursday at 8:30, usually at the 12-step house, but due to the circumstances, we're meeting at 8 o'clock at JC's, so thank you to JC's. Oh yeah, we are open for membership. You are a member when you say you are. Will all of our members please raise your hand and keep your hand raised? If you'd like to join the group, you can see me or anybody else with their hand raised. Our business meeting is held on the last Thursday of every month, which is tonight, but I don't think we're going to have the usual business meeting. This?
No.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah.
All right. And it's usually, we do medallions tonight, so I don't know if anybody's watching, if you're celebrating, if you have a year or more, and would like to say something or be acknowledged, you can do that.
Tammy.
We have Tammy. Tammy, you wanna say something?
Wait, we can't hear you. Hold on. I don't know how to unmute it.
I mean, she has to
You can't hear Tammy?
She's got it. Okay, there you go. Yeah.
I'm Tammy Gilmo, I'm a drug addict, and I'm an alcoholic. This is my home group. And I have 9 years, and I'm very grateful.
Right.
This is what I want to say about 9 years. This is what I want to say to everybody who keeps picking up. And keeps picking up. And keeps picking up. It is never, never going to work out. We have to concede to our innermost selves that this disease wants us dead. Right now, we are in a pandemic where innocent people are dying from an incurable, contagious disease. And here we are with a solution that requires surrender and honesty. And we can live. We can live beyond our wildest dreams. For me, at 9 years, all that that means is, no matter how hard I try, I can't seem to give this away. And it's just breaking my heart. It's just breaking my heart. That it's like Stevie always says, the harvest is plenty and the workers are few. And I promise it gets better. The cravings go away. The obsession is lifted. There is a solution. The first step is honesty. Second is to have faith, hope, and faith. And so my conviction is for everyone is please don't give up. Please don't pick up no matter what. Because it's gonna kill you. And that's how I feel. And that's what that's what I wanted to share about at my 9 years. So thank you for letting me do.
Thank you, Tammy.
We love you. Is anybody else here on Zoom? Or is anybody else celebrating an anniversary? Okay.
Alright, thank you, Tammy. For next month, is anybody here that's celebrating a year or more for the month of May that likes to be acknowledged? Anybody? So I think Chevelle is celebrating. I think she has 8 or 9 years in May. And I'll be picking up 3 years in May. Anybody else? Alright, before going, the passing of the baskets due to circumstances. But thank you for the support of our group. We really appreciate it. Are there any announcements for the good of AA? No announcements. Thank you for letting me be of service.
Tommy.
Thank you, Tommy. Okay, so we have a speaker tonight, Rob. I don't know you that well. I have heard you speak a couple times, and I thoroughly enjoyed myself. And I am really looking forward to hearing your experience, strength, and hope about step 1. Thank you for being here tonight. And this is Rob, everybody.
Here's Rob, everybody. Think you can help me, bud? If you put it on the other side, it'll be good. And I'll just get rolling. If you can't put it on the other side, if not, that's fine. Thank you. I'll just get started while he's doing that. I'm Robert, I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date is the 18th of December of 2007, and for that I am truly grateful. Welcome to all the people that are watching on Zoom. I just think it's the coolest thing in the world that no matter what comes up, we alcoholics find a way to meet together, and that's what COVID is to me. It's not about shrinking, it's about overcoming and adapting and improvising and doing that dance. And that's why I'm here, you know. People, you know, say thank you, and I appreciate the gal who said thank you, but listen, I'm here because I have to stay sober. You know, listen, if I had another way of doing this, I wouldn't be here, believe me. If I could drink and get away with it, I would be drinking, for sure. But the problem is that I'm an alcoholic, which means I have an obsession of the mind, an analogy of the body. And so here's what qualifies me, and here's what separates me from normal people, and this is why I'm here. I do this because I have to stay sober. I can assure you that I'm not looking for like popularity points or anything like that in Alcoholics Anonymous. I've never been that way. Sometimes I'll upset you. Listen, I'll do things to offend a group just to get you to pay attention. Believe me, I will. I might tonight. Who knows? I'm going to talk about step 1. I really am. But I want to just say a couple of things. There's a couple of things that separate me from normal people. You know, one of those things is that once I start, I cannot stop. And once I stop, I cannot stay stopped. Of my own volition, I can't do it. I tried from 12 years old to 38. And at 38 years old, I came into Alcoholics Anonymous beaten, ripped, to shreds. And I may tell a story or two, tell you a little bit about me. I just did this recently, but my parents were Dominican immigrants. They went to New York City. They had 3 kids. I was actually conceived in New York, and then they moved to Texas. But we spent all of our summers and Christmases and long periods of time in New York City. So that's where I kind of was really raised. Texas was a place where we went to school. Most of my family was like from Astoria, New York, Jackson Heights. I had family in Prospect Park. I had family all over the city, family in Jersey, and then we'd spend about a week in Miami and about a week in DR and go back. And that went on, I don't know, about 6 months of every year throughout the entirety of my life. I started drinking at about 12 years old. I loved it immediately. I was one of those kids, I believe I was born an alcoholic. I was born uncomfortable in my own skin. As far back as I can remember, I did not feel comfortable in my own skin. I didn't feel a part of anything. I felt disconnected. I was born disconnected. And what made me feel connected was like 6 drinks at 12 years old. That was the first time in my whole life that I thought I had found what I had been looking for my whole life. And I got into a lot of trouble. I was like instant antisocial. The big book says that we become dangerously antisocial. So as soon as I drank, I was criminal. You know what I mean? Like I started thinking immediately. There wasn't like a period of time when I sat around and read, I don't know, books and over a fireplace chat and talked about philosophy or any of that horse shit. I didn't do that stuff. I drank and wanted to go screw some shit up quick. So by the time I was 15 years old, I'd spent 3 months in juvenile hall, 2 months in a military school, and 9 months in a treatment center. And so from 14, about midway through 14 to 16, I was in controlled environments. Now, mind you, and I only say this because it's part of my story, my father was an anesthesiologist. I was raised in the country club. I had no reason to be doing any of that shit, but that's the shit I like to do. Because I had a lot of cousins in New York that were from the other side of the tracks, and I liked the way they lived. I liked that lifestyle. And that's where I got my street IQ. I certainly didn't get it on the rough and tumble streets of Corpus Christi, Texas. Corpus Christi, Texas, if you drew a line from Tampa Bay all the way across the bay, you would literally land in a mirror city. So Tampa does have a mirror city, and that mirror city is called Corpus Christi, Texas. 300,000 people. So on through the years, I
you know, when I went to all these controlled environments, what I learned is that what you were supposed to do was just not get caught. You could do all the stuff you want to do, you just couldn't get caught, because if you got caught, then you got in trouble and you had to stop for a while. So I somehow graduated from high school, went on and through college, and my drinking began to take on enormous proportions. I drank every day. We had a keg in the friggin' kitchen. You know, no food. But from my, I don't know, my first year at college all the way to that fourth year, you know, it was just like, okay, your turn to take out the trash, your turn to clean the kitchen, your turn to go get the keg. We had beer in there all the time. It flowed like water. And my drinking began to take on some serious proportions where even on days I'd say I'm not going to drink today, I would drink anyway. And so I started drinking against my will early in the game. So I accumulate another degree, get a job in a hospital, and I'm a director. I'm 26 years old, and everything on the outside looks good, making money, got the car, got the deal, and inside I'm dying, slow, cold, and alone, and alcoholic's death. This is a part in our big book that says there will come in a time in an alcoholic's life when he cannot envision life with or without alcohol. And I've been to that place multiple times in my life. Not one time, multiple times. So that was the first time. So I was praying, God, help me or kill me, help me or kill me. Now, if any of you have ever prayed in that, you're sitting in a room of Alcoholics Anonymous, God answered. That's how I see it. And let me say a couple other things. I'm just another bozo on the bus. I don't speak for Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm not a spokesperson for Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't have any authority in Alcoholics Anonymous. So anything I say is just my opinion, it's my experience. Now, if I read it out of the book, you know, these two books where a program exists, then it's the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. There's a lot of people that like to take things out and put things in, and that's all fine if that's what people do. I don't do that. This stuff was written 83 years ago, or 80 plus years ago, and it's proven to work in like 2 million, you know, like millions of lives. So when I told my sponsor that I didn't think To the Wives applied to us anymore because it was, you know, 2007, you know, he said, listen, there's like 2 million people who have recovered in the United States and there's your opinion. So why don't you just shut up? That's how they spoke to me. Now, I'm not speaking to you that way. I'm just telling you how I was spoken to, because what they were basically saying is your thinking sucks. I used to call him and say, listen, I want to talk about a feeling. He'd say, that's fine. Just turn to the chapter called In the Feelings and call me back. So I started going through the book, Bill's story, There Is a Solution, more about alcoholism, all the way to the back, and I'd call him back and say, there's no chapter called In the Feelings. He'd say, exactly, and he'd hang up. And those are the kind of sponsors that dealt with me, because they knew that my thinking and my feelings and talking about them in Alcoholics Anonymous weren't going to help me. That I had been pissing and moaning about my life my whole life, and all that did was just make me feel shitty. So I'm praying to God, help me or kill me, and I go to my job that day, and God answered. Somebody had stolen. See, I don't always like the way God answers. Like sometimes, at 12 years sober, when I ask God to help me, what he does is he throws like 5 sponsees at me. You know what I mean? That's his answer to me. His answer is, that's fine. You're not doing so well. Chop more wood, carry more water in Alcoholics Anonymous, and you'll come out the other side. And I've been doing that dance since 12 years ago, and you know, I have to tell you, in good times and bad, in fair weather and foul, my boat will rock right, it'll rock left. But Alcoholics Anonymous and God will stand it up again every time, no matter what. Like when I had to bury my father. You know, that was a tough time, watching your mom cry and do all that stuff. That dance, that's a heavy dance. For those of you who have experienced it, you know it's heavy. And those of you who haven't, it's heavy. You know, but Alcoholics Anonymous will pull you through that stuff. Or when you have to kick a dope hole door down twice and pull your daughter out of it. You know what I mean? You gotta, then you find out what kind of alcohol, then you really find out what kind of program you have when it's just you and God. And you're thinking bad things and want to do bad things, but you don't. And you know, my daughter is now 2.5 years sober by the grace of God and Alcoholics Anonymous. No. Only to say this. It's that time that you find out all the meetings and all the hours and days and weeks and months and years that you went to a meeting sometimes come down to just one moment in time. And that moment in time is going to define you in relation to what work you put in up to that, from here to that point. You'll find out in that moment how you're gonna listen when no one's watching. When the PO's off your back, your girlfriend's off your back, boyfriend's off your back, no one's watching. The treatment centers, TVB, none of those, they're all gone. You've graduated. You know, you don't really graduate from Alcoholics Anonymous, for the record. Make sure we all know that. But you graduate from the treatment center, you're doing all that thing, and something comes up, because life will get lifey. Now, life is usually beautiful for me. And even when it's bad, I'm steady. And that's a new thing for me. That's Alcoholics Anonymous. Alcoholics Anonymous has given me a steady faith that no matter what is going on, I may not be able to see. I may not be able to see in the world how it's going to work out, but God's already got it all worked out for me. And that's been my case at every turn over the last 12 years. God will make the impossible possible. God will make things happen in another world that I don't understand, that don't make sense in the material world. They don't make sense. Hell, Alcoholics Anonymous doesn't make sense. Does Alcoholics Anonymous make sense? How does that work? I used to tell my sponsor, I said, listen, I'm having a bad day. I don't know how I'm going to pay the rent. I don't have any money. I've got 6 months sober. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do. He'd say, serve coffee. How the hell does that work, serve coffee? Are they going to pay me to serve coffee? Are they going to like come up with a GoFundMe page if I serve coffee? How is serving coffee going to, did you hear what I said? He said, yeah, I heard what you said. Listen, why don't you take 2 coffee commitments? And the thing is I hated him for that stuff because he wouldn't ever just answer my questions. I wanted answers. Thing is I know now he didn't have any answers. He just knew to take me back to Alcoholics Anonymous and do what we're all supposed to do around here. And I started serving coffee and everything worked out fine. I'm going to get back to the other story. Don't think I forgot. I'm kind of like Pulp Fiction. I'm going to go to the beginning and then go to the middle. I'm going to twist around. It's just the way my brain works. I can't help that. So I go into this treatment center. God help me or kill me. And that day somebody had stolen some medication off the floor. So what they do when that happens is they drug test everybody. But since I didn't take the medication, I wasn't concerned at all. I waltzed in there and peed and was feeling so confident about everything. And the next day, they called me down and said, we have a problem. I said, what's the problem? I said, we have a problem. I said, okay, what's the problem? They said, well, we have a problem. And I said, okay, look, I didn't take the medication. She said, no, you didn't. We just want you to answer for the marijuana, cocaine, and alcohol in your system. Remember, I had been praying, God help me or kill me, and that's how he answered. So that was my first introduction to Alcoholics Anonymous. Went to a treatment center, hated everybody. Because, I don't know about you guys, but I just didn't like, other human beings very much. So I go to this treatment center, and this therapist, I say to him, listen, my problem is the white powdery substance. Clearly I can drink. He says, well, no, you can't. I said, it was March 26, 1996. I said, what about Christmas? He said, Robert, normal people don't think about drinking at Christmas in March. That's 9 months from now. Only alcoholics think that way. And then, of course, when an alcoholic hears, reads, or sees something he doesn't like, he just gets pissed off at it. You know what I mean? Or discredits the source. That way I don't have to listen to this guy. So I asked him where he went to school, where did you get your training, do you have a master's degree, are you in recovery, how long have you been working here, all that shit. Meanwhile, the poor guy was just trying to help me, and then I avoided him for the next month. But the power of Alcoholics Anonymous is that for the next 5 years, I hung around AA and just went to meetings and I didn't drink. Now, I didn't work any steps. So here, the big book basically tells me this. So I didn't drink because there's power in meetings. You know that, right? You know that when we prayed in the beginning of this meeting at 8 o'clock, we prayed with this meeting and all the meetings that opened up on the East Coast at 8 o'clock, and all the ones that started Central Time at 7, and Mountain Time at 6, and Pacific Time at 5, and all the Zoom meetings going on all around the world, and there's power there. See? I believe that. I'm an absolute firm believer that when we all come together and pray, it's not just this room, it's all the alcoholics all over the world, and there's power there. So what happens is this. I hang around AA for the next 5 years, but I don't experience a psychic change. That's what it says is going to happen in the book, right? It says if I work these steps, which is why we're going to talk about step 1 and the rest of the steps 1 week at a time, is because I'm supposed to work these steps to have us. See, before Alcoholics Anonymous, there were psychic changes, but they were here and there. They didn't happen very often. And Bill Wilson, in my opinion, wrote a divinely inspired book. And Alcoholics Anonymous is in the business of mass-producing psychic changes. We mass-produce psychic changes here. All you have to do is follow the 12 steps, right? You know that pastors, priests, and rabbis come to Alcoholics Anonymous to get sober. You know that, right? Most people don't know that. I sponsored a rabbi. It's kind of weird, but I did. Because he knew a lot more about all of the divinity and so on and so forth, but he didn't know anything about staying sober. Because this is where we learn to do that dance. This is where we learn to do that dance. So here's what it says. It says this. So I hung around AA for the next 5 years, but I drank again. Here's why. The term spiritual experience and spiritual awakening are used many times in this book, which upon careful reading show that the personality change. So apparently my drinking and alcoholism have something to do with my personality. Personality change sufficient enough to bring about recovery from alcoholism has manifested itself among us in many different forms. So basically what they're saying is I'm going to have a psychic change if I want to stop drinking. I can't just come to meetings and hang out and not drink for a while. That's fine for a while. there's a part in the book that says, you know, there's a kid, there's a guy, and you know, it says that he stops drinking for a while and he's whistling. We laugh at such a Sally, for we know he'll try the old game again. Because somewhere in the back of my mind during that 5 years, I said, you know, if I can just get to 5 years, I can probably have a drink. And that's exactly what I did. I moved to Miami, right? And decided that at the 5-year mark, it'd be a good idea to tempt my fate. So I don't know anybody here. I decided I'm going to go to a bar at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Don't worry, I'm going to get to step one, I promise. But I'm leading you up to my step one. See, because my step one is I had to be crushed repeatedly, over and over and over and over. And for me, I don't know about you guys. Like maybe you know, had one little run-in with the law and you came into AA and been sober since. That's great. That's just not me. The way I did it was I was going to run this thing out to the bitter end. You know what I mean? I was going to go out in a blaze of glory. If I died in my 20s an alcoholic, so be it. That's how I used to think I'm never going to see my 30s or 40s. There's no friggin' way. I'm 50, just turned, so like I made it, you know. Pretty cool. I mean, at least up to now, we'll see. As long as I keep doing this work. So there's a couple things that it says have to happen, and I'm going to read this to you because I think it's important to read. And this is the reason I'm telling you all these stories, is because it's important for me to explain to you how I got to this place. This place here where it talks about this. It says this. It says, for the process of gaining a new perspective was unbelievably painful. Unbelievably painful. It was only by repeated humiliations that we were forced to learn something about humility. It was only at the end of a long road marked by successive defeats and humiliations and the final crushing of our self-sufficiency that we begin to feel humility as something more than a condition of groveling despair, which is why I'm leading you up to all of my crushing. You know, the crushing that had to take place. I had to be crushed. You know, like crushed to a place where there was no other way out. So I decided I'm going to go to a bar, and I don't want anybody to know me. See, when you're selfish and self-centered, you can be in a town of 10 million people and not know anybody, but you think everybody's looking at you. You ever do that deal? You ever like not know people somewhere, but you're convinced everyone's looking at you and judging you? You ever do that? You ever look at somebody in a meeting and say, I know exactly what they're thinking. I have no fucking idea what the guy's thinking. But sometimes in my mind I'll think that, right? Or how dare he look at me that way, or not say hi, or say, you know, listen, we walk around with chips on our shoulders before we have the psychic change. So when you're selfish and self-centered, everything that goes on around you is about you, even though it isn't. Right? I'm just a small part of a big whole. I live in a world of 6 billion people. I'm just one guy. So I go to this bar, and I don't want anybody to see me, so I go on a Wednesday at 2. It's called Ted's Hideaway. It's still there. So I order a drink, and you know, there was 5 years of AA in my head at the time. So I'm thinking, they're going to find out. Meanwhile, they who, like, nobody cares, right? But I'm thinking the guy's going to be like, undercover, hey, put that drink down right now. We know what you're doing, Robert. But that didn't happen. So then I started to take the drink, and I thought, well, the riot police are going to kick the door and be like, put that down, don't take another drink. You know, nothing happened. I took a drink, nothing happened. Like the guy in the story that goes and stops at a roadside diner where he had been many times before, it says in the big book. And no thought of drinking. He was going to have a sandwich. And then he goes again, and he was going to have a sandwich. And then the thought crosses his mind. The mental twist that precedes the first drink. What if I put a little whiskey in the glass of milk? He takes the drink, and nothing happens, so he has another, and nothing happens, so he has another, and off to the races. And that's what happened to me. So about 1.5 years later, I was in crisis at South Miami Hospital, and that went on from 2001 to 2007 when I was finally crushed. Now here's what had to happen. So I want to tell you, I want to read a couple things about what step 1 should look like. Here's what it says in step 1 is supposed to happen. And here's really what step 1 is. It's talked about all over our book, but there's a couple of things I think are specific that are important to read. It says, we know little good can come to any alcoholic who joins AA until he has first accepted his devastating weakness and all its consequences. Until he so humbles himself, his sobriety, if any, will be precarious, and of real happiness he will find none at all. And that's the way I lived my life, all my life, but specifically even after I came into AA, because, see, the funny thing is, like, you come into AA, and you're cocky in here. This is like the last house on the block, right? So we come in here, and we want to be cocky here. not realizing that it's not the Harvard Law Review, it's not a social club, it's not the Kiwanis Club, it's not any of that. It's the last house on the block. It's where we come to save our souls, man. You know what I mean? So it says here that until I so humble myself. What does that mean? That means that I write down who and what I am. See, because when you do that, if you're honest about what you wrote, you can't do that and be cocky at the same time. It's impossible. So when I wrote down the examples of my powerlessness over alcohol and my unmanageability, for the first time, that last time, I became very, very humble in understanding that I was going to need God's mercy and His grace. And that if I didn't get that, I was going to die slow, cold, and alone in alcoholic's death. I weigh about 215 pounds. I weighed 147 when I got sober and stayed at that weight for quite some time. If you've ever taken like a hanger, a wire hanger, and you put a white shirt on it that's wet, that's what I look like, you know. It wasn't looking so good for me. I couldn't complete sentences very well for about a year. So a couple of other things I think are important to talk about in step 1, which I didn't read, so I'm going to do it now. You guys got to remind me sometimes because I'm an old man and I forget shit. It says this. 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, dash, that our lives have become unmanageable. The dash means 2 ideas that are separate but related. That's why he wrote it that way. Because I can be powerless over alcohol and deal with that dance, and I can be totally unmanageable and stone cold sober. In fact, the only step that I've worked perfectly is the first part of the first step. And certainly not the second part of the first step, right? There have been many a day in sobriety where I have been completely unmanageable. Not as much anymore, because as you practice this stuff, you get better at it. You know, your life gets better, and God does what you can't do for yourself, including helping you no longer be unmanageable. But there's a couple of other things I want to read. She told me to stop at 45, so I'm going to try to respect that. Where are we?
You can continue to read. We started late.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. Well, she just screwed you up. Now you got to listen to me for 15 more minutes. All right. Well, so let me tell you about my grandfather. Just kidding. All right. So more about alcoholism. Here it is. So this is step 1 in the big book for those of you who've never seen it. But we read it in this meeting, and I think it's a great thing to read because this is the story of my life until I got sober. Most of us had been unwilling to admit we were real alcoholics. I don't know about you guys, but I didn't want to admit I was an alcoholic. Tell me I'm depressed. Call me a criminal. Call me bipolar, tripolar, polar bear. Call me whatever you want. You can even call me a drug addict. But don't you dare call me an alcoholic. Because what I thought was like the alcoholic was the dude, the wino at the end of the street singing songs or underneath the bridge or whatever that is. And I didn't want to be that. So I tried for many, many years to prove that I wasn't an alcoholic. No person likes to think he is bodily and mentally different from his fellows. We don't want to be different. We want to belong, right? We go to happy hour. We try to drink like other people. But then things start happening. Like, I don't know. I'd go to Lincoln Road and have drinks with my friends, and they'd be like, something's wrong with the bill. John, you had 1. Lisa, you had 2. Robert, we've been here an hour and a half. You had 18 rum and cokes. I'm like, yeah, so? I'm going to pay for them. Like, I didn't understand why they took issue with that if I was going to pay for my drinks. What's the problem? The problem is normal people don't drink that way. So I didn't want them to know I was drinking that way, so I would tell the waitress, listen, bring me 2 doubles and just keep coming until I tell you to stop. And then I just tip her. You know what I mean? And if you're laughing, you get it. See, this is the only place in the world I can tell that story. And I can see that even in the masks, I can see the giggling, I can see the... Because when I tell that story to normal people, you know what they say? They say shit like, that's tragic. They don't think it's funny. They're like, that's horrible, Robert. Jesus Christ. All right, moving on. So it says things like this. It says, therefore, it is not surprising that our drinking careers have been characterized by countless vain attempts to prove we could drink like other people. When I came into AA, it was my 4th time as an adult because I just refused to believe that I fit here. But I'm going to tell you one of the things that happened when I finished reading this. The idea that somehow, someday, he will control and enjoy his drinking. If I was controlling it, I didn't enjoy it. And if I was enjoying it, I wasn't controlling it. I only enjoyed it when I was piss drunk. And if I had to control it, which I seldom could do, but if I had to, I didn't. Why would you even do that? Why would you see? I never understood one drink with wine, or wine with steak, or beer with pasta. Why would you take up that part of your stomach? because then it slows you down, right? If you're nodding, you get it. When I say that to normal people, they're like, Rob, that's horrible. It's really a nice thing to have steak and wine. That's great, but I don't understand it, because I just never did it. A couple of other things. It says the idea that somehow someday he will control and enjoy his drinking is a great obsession of every abnormal drinker. So you're telling me that if I'm obsessing about controlling and enjoying it, that makes me abnormal? Yes, that's what we're saying. The persistence of this illusion is astonishing. Some pursue it into the gates of insanity or death. I don't know about you guys, but I went to insanity plenty. I have been there and back about 30, 40 times. They kept sending me off the ranch saying, there's nothing we can do for you here on the Insanity Ranch. I mean, I have been there many times. I got tired of going. Then they just threw me out. We learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholics. We read that a lot and we just kind of skip over what that means. Let's break that down. We learned that we had to fully concede. Fully concede. What does that mean? That means that I had to fully admit, concede, to give up. Like when somebody concedes to another person that they won the election. I have to concede, to give up, and to accept that I'm an alcoholic, that I can never drink normally and safely. This is the first step in recovery. So until I've done that, until I have fully conceded to my innermost self that I'm an alcoholic, I haven't done the first step. Oh, I can do all that stuff, I can do all the steps mechanically, whatever it is, but until I do that, what does that mean? Fully concede to your innermost self. Like when you're by yourself in the shower, or when you first wake up in the morning, or when you go to bed at night and it's just you and your thoughts. That's the innermost self. There's no noise anymore, the TV's off, whatever it is, your boyfriend or girlfriend shut up, or whatever that story is, whatever it looks like for you, right? And there's that moment where it's just you and your thoughts. In that space, have you fully conceded to your innermost self that you're an alcoholic? And I did. And I'll tell you how it laid out, because it's funny, because this is the way God plays jokes on me. So, I was sitting in the West Dixie. I had about maybe 5 days sober, and they read more about alcoholism, which I've heard a million times, but I'd never heard it. You ever hear something in AA for years and years and years, and then you capture something? Oh, principles before personalities. That's what they mean, right? Okay, so I'm 5 days sober, and they read more about alcoholism, and they read the part that says, it is the greatest deception of every abnormal drinker that somehow, someday he will control and enjoy his drinking. The persistence of this illusion is astonishing. Some pursue it in the gates of insanity and death. Right? And it took me all the way back to that therapist who said, Robert, normal people don't think about drinking at Christmas in March. And on that day, which was 5 days into recovery, I realized that I was home. Now, I want to close with some good stuff, and here's the good stuff. Once I started doing this dance, which I've been dancing for the last 12 years, my life has been made more full than I could have ever imagined or even envisioned when I was counting days. Because it's the kind of stuff you can't buy. You see? Not cash and prizes, horse shit. But when your parents call you to dinner at 4 or 5 years sober, look you deep in the eye and say, son, we love you, we're not worried about you anymore. And you know they mean it. Or when your father gives you a hug and picks you up off your feet, best she can. She can't quite pick me up off my feet, she tried. And lets you know that you're the one reason she might be standing, because you kicked down those dopo doors. Or when you truly love somebody more than you love yourself. And not codependent, sick, obsessive craziness, because that's not love. By the way, for all you people, I know I love him because I can't stop thinking about him. No, that's obsessive thinking. That's not love. Right? That's different. But I mean when you truly connect to God, to other people, to yourself, that you no longer feel alone anymore at all, ever. No matter where you are or what you're doing. I don't know about you guys, but before AA, I felt alone all the time, even when I was with people, because no one knew me. I didn't want anybody to get to know me. I only showed you the parts of me I wanted you to know. Especially when you live in a criminal life, right? Like you'd get part 3 and 4, and he'd get 5 and 6, and she'd get 7 and 8, and he'd get 9 and 10, but none of you got all the pieces. No, hell no. Because I don't want you to get to know me. But once you come into Alcoholics Anonymous and you get honest with yourself, first, right? To thy own self be true. When you get honest with other people, you start to feel a sense of connectedness in God and in love and with other people that you've never had your whole life. And you begin to realize that God is suddenly doing for you what you could not do for yourself. But it's got nothing to do with the cash and the prices of the apartment and the girl and the car and the shiny stuff, which is all fine. There's nothing wrong with that stuff. But that's not the stuff we're promised in here. What we're promised are two things. I'm going to leave you with those promises, and then I'm going to go. In the forward of the 12 and 12, it says this. And by the way, for those of you counting days, I think that's a beautiful thing. Keep coming. If I can do this, so can you. I'm just another bozo on the bus. And if you're just coming back, welcome back. Most of us don't make it back. So if you made it back, you're lucky. That's a beautiful thing. So, it says here that if we do this work, that AA's 12 steps are a group of principles, spiritual in their nature, which are practiced as a way of life. Practiced as a way of life. Not worked once with a sponsor, not I'm going to win the lotto if I work step 3. No. Practiced as a way of life. Can expel the obsession to drink and enable the sufferer to become happy and usefully whole. That's my story. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Rob, for your service. I just want to make a quick announcement to everyone on Zoom. Sorry for the technical difficulties tonight. I just want to let you know, anyone watching on Zoom, if we ever have a situation where you can't hear, you can't see, or it hasn't started yet, you can watch this meeting live on Facebook by going to JC's House-Sober Soldiers. So just want to let you guys know that. Okay, I have asked Kenny to do the chips.
Ken's alcoholic. In AA, we have a chip system to denote sobriety lengths of time. It all starts with the white, which is 0 to 29 days. Anybody picking up a white here or online? Any newcomer?
I'll pick up a white.
Yeah. What was your name? Alyssa.
Scott Lipton, day 2.
Scott, day 2.
Congratulations, Scott.
Paul, day 3. Anybody else? No? All right. Green, 30 days.
J.C. Williams, 30 days today.
JC Williams.
Congratulations, JC Williams.
Anthony. Gina.
Gina.
30 days. Anybody? 30 days. All right. Blue, 60 days. Anybody online? No? Red, 90 days. All right. Mike. Pink, 6 months. Yellow, 9 months.
We have Amy Sheeters and Molly Wilson with 9 months.
Anybody else? 9 months. All right. Medallions, we did that. So yeah. Suggestions: get a sponsor, 90 meetings in 90 days, and don't pick up.
Okay, and I have asked, hold on. Oh, Lori to do a vision to read a vision for you.
Hold on, let me get the book. All right.
Hi, my name is Lori. I'm a recovering alcoholic. Thanks for everyone's service and for letting me speak tonight.
Lori.
Sorry, vertically challenged. Vision for you. Still you may say, but I will not have the benefit of contact with you who wrote this book. We cannot be sure. God will determine that. So you must remember that your real reliance is always upon Him. He will show you how to create the fellowship you crave. Oh, sorry, I actually started a little too soon. Our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask Him in the morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order, but obviously you cannot transmit something you haven't got. So see to it that your relationship with Him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to Him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet us, some of us, as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then.
Thank you, Lori. Thank you, everyone, for coming to spread the word. Thank you again, Robert, so much. Thank you for everyone who did service. And we have a nice way of closing with the Lord's Prayer. Let's have a moment of silence. Thank God for allowing us to be here tonight and be together. Who woke us up this morning?
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Stay.